Jason is a badass motherfucker. He picks up garbage left by assholes all day, all the while listening to the most brutal metal out there. He hates wizard metal and has a soft spot for trash like Nirvana and other crap from the 90s, but we'll forgive him because he's just so damned awesome. Mike, on the other hand, is a bastion of impeccable musical refinement. He's been playing guitar and running a studio for nearly 30 years. He's an engineer by trade and can write some of the worst code you've ever seen. He loves wizard metal and often turns his nose up whenever he hears stuff that Jason would call soulful or emotional. If Jason is Maverick, Mike is Iceman. Between the two of them is a veritable mountain of musical knowledge and taste. These old friends will entertain as well as enlighten, all the while paying tribute to the best that the world of metal has to offer. Welcome to the Two Shots Metal Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Two Shots Podcast. I am Jason.
I am Mike. Shouts out to all of our amazing, wonderful subscribers who we love so much. Shoutouts to Japan. As usual, half of our subscriber base is Japanese.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We love all of you.
We love you all. And you know how we start the show. We always like to do our two shots. Give a shout out to the people that have impacted our lives or otherwise. Who you got, Mike?
All right. Going first today. So I'm going to give a shout out to Officer James Niggemeyer from a lot of you guys know what we were talking about last time. We were talking about my awful lack of awareness of DamagePlan because I didn't get a chance to listen to him that much back in the day. Despite being a huge Dimebag and Pantera fan, this is embarrassing for me. Officer James was kind enough to shoot the motherfucker that shot Dimebag right in the face with a 12-gauge shotgun. He's the first responder that showed up to that. Shouts out to James. Officer James, we love you, buddy.
Way to go. You're a hero.
Hero.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh. So, today I'm doing my tequila, my Terramana. Love it.
Hendrix
so
Gin for me. Again, as usual, sponsored by Hendrix Gin.
My shout out today is a little bit of a history shout out. 40 years ago, Quiet Riot became the first heavy metal band to top the charts. I mean, I grew up with this band and this album, actually. I mean, it was Mental Health. It was such a good album.
So good.
So I think my shout out today is going to be Kevin DeBoer. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
And you know what? Kevin.
To Kevin, man.
Oh, my God.
He was a legend. And Quiet Riot is a very underrated band. A lot of people think they're just a little silly, but that was actually Randy Rhoads' first major band that he was in. A guitar-playing favorite of mine. They were
silly.
Yep.
They were very much like, I mean, hair metal, like speed metal, but they were
they're good.
I enjoyed the hell out of them, yeah.
Yep.
So today, Mike, we are doing our review show. We're going back to some reviews.
Wait a second.
You had our
Jason. I wanted to start something tonight because we talked about this. I think we owe our community, our fans, our Patreon subscribers, we owe all of them a service. We like to give back because we have been so blessed, especially because of this amazing podcast and all of you fans. So Jason has a gift for all of us. We want to be better people. Jason, help us be better people and give us some context.
Right, Mike. I appreciate that. So this is going to be tips of a garbage man. I won't go too far into details. I'm going to go simple tips, simple things to do just to not piss your garbage man off and help yourself, help me, help you. So the first simple tip, stop recycling.
Yes, I love it.
I know that's like a haha joke, and like, you know, people are like, why would you say something like that? In America, Now, Japanese, absolutely, you should recycle. In America, we are doing absolutely nothing with the recycle. Most of the recycle is going to the landfills anyway, because we don't do clean recycle. We don't clean out the jars. We don't take the lids off. We bag our recycle half the time. So, and China is our biggest seller of our recycle. They are not accepting any kind of dirty recycle. So, recycle that gets rejected, goes straight into our landfills. So, just do yourself a favor. Stop recycling.
So what I think you should do, Jason, I think this would benefit all of us assholes out here. What if we're like, I want to recycle. It's in my heart. It's in my blood. Is there like an appropriate way that we could be recycling without like just getting that shit into the landfills? Like, is there a clean ability to clean recycle somewhere? Is there a place like that? I know where you are located, you are giving very localized advice as well. Is there like is there any way we could feel good about ourselves? Because personally, I don't feel good unless I'm doing the right thing that the media tells me to do, and they tell me to recycle all the time.
So,
Is there any way I could do that without being a fucking jackass that's just making more work for you?
no, not really. I mean, you can. They say not to bag your recycle, but we sell recycled bags. The the clear bags, those see-through bags.
Yep.
Bag them. Everything is all about bagging. Some garbage companies will say, do not bag your recycle. Absolutely bag your recycle. Because if you want to be the Karen or the Ken that bitches about shit on your streets, it's because it's loose. So just bag your recycle. Always clean. Like, I would say if you want to feel good about it, you're just going to clean your damn sauce jars. Make sure your cans are empty. The lids, we don't care about that. You can keep the lids on stuff. That's completely fine. They accept that stuff because it still gets melted down. Because that's essentially what it is. Yeah, I'm talking locally, but I've also been in Florida doing the same thing.
Hey, that's countrywide now. He knows.
What used to happen is we would sell it to Jersey and New York, and they actually utilized maybe like 20% of the recycle for energy. I don't know if that number's gone up. But if you want to feel good about it, those are little tips for you.
What I feel the best about is metal recycling, because I think that shit's a fucking real thing, and you can sell all your copper wiring for fucking money.
And right now, copper is pretty good money. It's never gonna go down. The price of copper was down in the mid-90s, but then it skyrocketed back up, and this is why people steal copper from homes.
I was going to say, tip, if there's a guy in your neighborhood, just go right in there, rip the copper wire out, and there you go.
They'll take it from the refrigerators. And
yeah, pro tip, strip the casing off of it, or if you can use a torch to get the plastic off, they'll give you more money for it.
That's horrible advice.
Do not do any of this.
You're a scumbag, but
I don't know this because I've sold copper. I have worked a bit in telecommunications, and that is
so you kind of get it.
A lot of people don't know this. Here's another fun. AT&T actually invented recycling because we would have stripped all the copper out of the earth if we didn't start recycling phone cables. This is a true story. True story.
That is wild, actually.
That's right.
But yeah,
see, we inform and enlighten. Excellent tip, Jason.
Is always the way to go. Yep. I mean, there's junkyards all over the place, and they'll take your metal, and they'll pay you for it. That's the way to go. Over here on my side, Washington doesn't do it, but like Oregon or some other states actually still pay you for your bottles, and that's cool.
Hell yeah. I know there was always like Vermont or whatever, the big VT or whatever. If you look at your soda can or whatever, you'd always see like VT right there, like, take this to Vermont and they'll give you like 10, 20 cents a can or something. Like, it was crazy. Yep.
Only a few states still do it because they actually believe in it, but it's recycling right now is kind of useless. That's my tip.
Pro tip.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jason. We entertain as well as enlighten. Thank you. So today we do have a special episode for everyone out there. We are biting the bullet, and we are offering our services as professional musical entertainers, and we are going to do some reviews. and we
Absolutely.
picked two bands today that we want to do to review, and I'm gonna take the lead and start us off on this one. And I picked to review DamagePlan because I wanted to remedy the what's the word the serious flaw in my musical repertoire, because
The fact that you did not ever listen to DamagePlan.
I listened
This is
like
why you're
just
doing
the
it.
tiniest bit. Yeah, it's very embarrassing for me as such a Dimebag fan, such a Pantera fan. And so like I loved also Rebel Meets Rebel. I loved that as well. All of that I listened to more than DamagePlan. I hate to say.
So fucking sad. Yeah, because DamagePlan, I mean, obviously it was after Pantera, and we could go on to the whole, like, what happened with Pantera. Yeah, it's bullshit. But you know what? Dime and Vinny decided to move on and expand their horizons. That's really what it was. Yeah, there was some controversy with Phil and the actual the name, but and who owned properties. We all know that whole same song and dance.
Yep.
But Pantera is Pantera. We are talking about DamagePlan.
We are talking about DamagePlan. All right. So I'm going to take the lead on this one a little bit. So DamagePlan did have one album called Newfound Power. So I really, like, in this review, I only had like one album I had to check out, which is really convenient for me because I didn't have to do a ton of homework. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about is that DamagePlan is truly like Dimebag and Vinny. Like, so as you're listening to Pantera and any of their other projects, like, you can really tell that it's Dimebag and Vinny, like, throughout everything that they've done. Like, if you listen to Rebel Meets Rebel, for example, like, this is country music, but if you listen to it, it is Pantera style.
Yeah.
Like, completely. You can tell those guys, and the distinct sound, like, Dimebag has a very, like, percussive style of playing, and it pairs well with Vinny, like, very, very, very well.
I mean, brothers.
Yep, and it's very, very distinct. This album, Newfound Power, from start to finish, like, you can tell exactly who wrote the guitars and the drums on this one, like 100%.
Yes.
I'm gonna get into bass playing later because bass shit always gets overlooked, but I'm gonna talk about that a little bit too.
It always does.
One of the things that I really wanted to talk about. So the first comparison you're gonna get is, like, is this Pantera with a different vocalist? And
Yep.
that is the first question you're probably going to have. And yes it is. it definitely is. And here's the point I'm going to make with it.
So before you do that,
Yeah.
my initial thought was this is Pantera light.
Well, here's how I'm going to dig into that a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is I want to talk about the vocals, and then I want to talk about the progression of the music stylings of Dimebag and Vinny. I'm going to talk about how that has changed over time, and that, in my opinion, DamagePlan is an extension of reinventing the steel. And
Whoa.
yeah, I really want to try to hammer that point from my opinion. So, what's his name? Who's so
Talking about the lead singer?
Yes. What's his name?
Patrick.
Patrick. Thank you. Like, my note sheet is missing. So Pat Lackman, he is in his own right, I think he's actually a pretty credible vocalist. But he is very, very different sounding, especially growl-wise. So you're probably interested in, like, the growling aspect of it, like the very distorted and edgy sort of vocals. And he sounds very different, in my opinion, than Phil Anselmo. And
Oh yeah.
So Phil Anselmo has a lot of problems over the years. There are times when Phil Anselmo sounds very, very, very good, and there are times when he sounds like microwaved ass, like seriously ass to me. And I would say that Pat Lackman is like a very, like, he's a very middle ground sort of vocalist. He doesn't sound really amazing, but he doesn't sound bad either. Like, I think he's exactly what I would have expected if you're going to replace Phil Anselmo in a band. I think he's not a terrible choice. Like, I think he's a pretty good choice, but I think he sounds way different than Phil Anselmo to me. Do you have any opinions on that?
So yeah, it is very different. I don't know if I would say that, like, it would be a good replacement if you were to do that. My whole like quick take on the vocals wise is like it's nothing. It will be nothing. It would be nothing considered close to what Phil would do, and I will never agree that Phil could ever sound like microwave ass. I'm just
Well, Phil went through a lot of like rough times in like the late '90s and stuff like that when he was addicted to heroin. Man, he did not sound very good in some of that era. Like, and I don't like judge a lot of bands by their like live performances because recording of live stuff is very difficult. But if we're going that direction, like Phil has some really dog awful live shows, and some of their good recordings he doesn't sound that great. However, some of their live recordings he sounds really, really good. He was just kind of inconsistent, and his ability to reproduce the stuff he did was very, very limited over time. Like, and he damaged his voice too. Like Phil is like he's like an anomaly. He's like a really hot, crazy kind of ex-girlfriend that's been like, he's like, there's just a lot of shit to Phil, man. You get drama, you get fucking.
I'll take the abuse all the time.
Yeah, but you're gonna get some abuse from him. Like I've had to stand up for Phil like over the years a lot, and like then people play some of his live shit where he sounds awful and he's half wasted on heroin and shit like that. But like Phil was like genius level vocals when he was on point, man. He was so good.
Look, we all have bad days. Let's just leave it at that. Like,
but Pat Lachman is not Phil. He does not sound much like Phil at all. But he does like I think a credible job in my opinion. I think he's pretty credible. I don't really want to hate him. He's a guitar player. This I thought was really interesting. He's actually the guitar player that played in the Halford era when Rob Halford, as you guys know, is a singer for Judas Priest, and he left Judas Priest for a while, and he had this band called Fight for a while, and then he had this project called Halford, which I really liked. I thought Halford was a great band, and they put this album out called Resurrection that I played like on repeat for a while. This is something that Jason would not like. This is about as wizardy as it goes, especially with Rob Halford. Like, there's different kinds of Rob Halford. This is the like painkiller Rob Halford, where he is like tenor all the way, very high notes. Man, it's like power metal, which is stuff that I like way more than Jason likes. It's very wizardy.
Yeah.
But
the new Rob Halford I like a lot more than any of his older shit. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but so Pat Lachman was the guitar player on that stuff, and the guitar playing on those albums was really good. I think he's a talented musician. I think he's a credible style vocalist. But I do want to talk. There were a couple songs on this album that were very interesting vocal wise. That there's this song on there, and let me go to my note sheet. This song called "Save Me," which it sounds like 90s alt rock actually, like vocal wise, and I think it sounds great actually. I think this was actually one of the songs that I kind of dug a little bit. Like there was some vocal harmony there. Like there was really there was a like more into that song than like, but it's not heavy. Like it's not like it's not like a banger like so. Here's like two things I want to talk about music wise, because that's probably what you're listening for. And I have two like pretty solid complaints and why I didn't ever get into this. All right. So we'll dive into those now. And the first thing I want to talk about is what I have called my entire life. I've called this the Pantera problem. And I think this is a bigger problem than maybe people have acknowledged back in the day. So way back in the day, and I want to preface this by saying, like, I love Vinny and Dimebag so much, and I love Pantera, and so many people love Pantera, and that's the problem. And I want to like explore this a little bit and get Jason's feedback on it. So, back in the day, Phil Anselmo was in an interview on like Vulgar Video. He talks about this concept that he called the power groove. All right. He's like, it's a power groove, in his Phil Anselmo voice. And what he meant by this is like that slow kind of like heavy, like head bobbing kind of metal that Pantera was really known for, especially in their mid tier, please go ahead.
Far
Jason.
Beyond Driven. So you're talking
So
like Far
I'm
Beyond
talking
Driven.
Far Beyond Driven and up through Reinventing the Steel.
Okay.
So the first two albums, I want to say this is not what I'm referring to. Cowboys, and the power metal stuff before, the hair metal stuff before that, like, no. Not that that's not good, whatever. But let's talk about that separately. I mean, Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display of Power. So there's a ton going on in those two albums. But now this is not a Pantera like review commentary. But what I want to talk about is I want to bring up two specific songs, and those were 5 Minutes Alone and I'm Broken. And those songs are great fucking songs. Those are great songs.
They're fucking awesome.
To me, they're fucking awesome. They're these like mid to slow tempo, kind of like you bob your head like, you know, like they're slow though. They're slow. And they're not songs that you're going to like run around to. They're songs you're going to bob your head to. You know, they're slow. It's this slow tempo. It's a groove. It's not like a thrash or like a death metal kind of like aggressive, fast, like Fear Factory, you know, like super fast speed metal kind of stuff. That like, you know, like Metallica, Megadeth, those were like thrashy speed metal-y kind of things, whereas Pantera was a slower groove based kind of output. All right, and it was slow and very, very good. Like I love those songs, love those albums, and the problem is that style influenced so many musicians that were not of the caliber of Vinny and Dimebag. All right, so here's a thing I want to bring up: that slow groove in those two songs in particular. I just want to bring those two songs up because they're a perfect example of this. Are not simple songs; they're very complicated. They're interesting. They have a lot going on in them. They even like they have lots of syncopation. There's even like some funny like time and reverse sort of drum stuff in there, especially in 5 Minutes Alone. If you ever try to like, you know, drum along with that, it's really weird how it like switches. They're interesting and complicated songs. They are. This is because Dimebag and Vinny are like really progressive musician. They're progressive songwriters at that point in their career. And we're gonna talk about how I think that things have shifted a little bit. What the problem is that those songs influenced a bunch of shitty guitar players and shitty drummers to think they could write heavy music if all they did was write slow groove-based music, which did happen. And this is the plight of the nu metal era. Now, obviously, there are a ton of examples counter to what I'm saying. But the point I am making is that there's so much boring, slow metal that was influenced by Pantera that came out around that time. It was awful for metal. It was awful. And what they would do is, and there were two things I want to bring up. That slow, like the slow stuff. The beauty of Pantera is it was slow, but the riffs were amazing. Like, they were great riffs. They were, you know, they had complexity to them. There was nuance. There was a lot of things going on. They were interesting. But in lots of other music, this was not the case. This was not the case. The riffs were dull and boring. The tone was bad. That's another beauty of Pantera, is the very distinct tone that they had. That's very different from other bands. It was a very dark time for metal, which is kind of defined as like the nu metal era. I'm not talking about every band, obviously, but there was just so much of that. And the other thing that was going on at the time with this style, there was this combination where they would sacrifice everything for the sake of perceived heaviness. Okay, this concept called heaviness was done at the expense of melody, at the expense of syncopation or interesting things, or things that were like, so let's see, catchy. So I want to say like lack of pop sensibilities and stuff like that. They were sacrificing everything for the sake of heaviness. All right. Now, when I say heaviness, Jason, I think, is a connoisseur of heaviness. He knows what I'm talking about. Like, for example, 5 Minutes Alone and I'm Broken, those are heavy fucking songs. But they're not fast songs. They're heavy songs. Yes. You know? They hit you like a hammer. You know, boom, boom. They hit you hard. They're heavy.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the concept of heaviness is a little bit nebulous. I get it. But that slow heaviness, that groove heaviness that I'm talking about, lots of these bands would sacrifice lots of musicality, pop sensibilities, things that are syncopation and complexity just for the sake of heaviness. And because of that, it made things sound repetitive and boring to me. And that was very, very prevalent in lots of nu metal. Now, I'm not turning this into an entire nu metal dissection here, but here's the point I want to make. Is that over time, Vinny and Dimebag started going in that direction. Okay? My point is that DamagePlan is the culmination of this. So do this for me, loving fans, especially you Japanese ones, because you are half of our audience. Do this. If you ever want to check this progression out, start at Cowboys from Hell and listen, and then go all the way through, you know, Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power, Far Beyond Driven, Great Southern Trendkill, Reinventing the Steel, DamagePlan. And what you will hear is a musical progression of those two songwriters. In the beginning, there's tons of, like, Cemetery Gates, for example. Everyone brings up Cemetery Gates because it's so unlike other Pantera. But there's so much melody and stuff on the Cowboys from Hell stuff. All right, there's melody everywhere. There's portions that were fast. Like, there's, like, some thrash stuff in there and these stuff. Like, it's very, like, it's all over the place. It's very creative. The songs were, like, lots of melody, lots of catchiness. There's a lot of poppy sort of things that are in those things. And as Pantera progressed, they got heavier and heavier and heavier at the expense of musical composition. And DamagePlan, to me, is like the culmination of that. And that's the reason why I never really gave them a chance. Because in my mind, it was this progression of Vinny and Dimebag to this point where they weren't like writing melodies. There wasn't a lot of like musical composition at that point. They were just making stuff for the sake of heaviness. Now, as I went back and started listening to this again, I went and listened to it again. I heard a couple of the songs, like the title track, and I was like, oh yeah, I think my point has been made. Then I listened more. I did. I listened more, and it kind of hooked me more into it. Like, and I actually, like, I was like, you know, I think I'm being too hard. And the stuff was, like, sticking a little bit, while there's not, like, it's definitely different. Like, the style is you could not, like, I mean, you can compare. Like, Cowboys from Hell and this, they're very different, though. It's very different. These are written by, like, two guys that are in different stages of their musical, like, of what they like. And but it's very, very different. But I still enjoy this album, actually. Like, I really did. And it was really, like, I kind of thought in my mind of it being a bit of an extension of Reinventing the Steel. Reinventing the Steel, to me, like, I only really super enjoyed, like, one or two songs on that album. And it was, like, the weird ones. Now, I like the whole album as a whole. It's still Pantera. But, see, like, the bar is so high with Pantera for me. Like, there are songs in like, if I were to give you, like, a top, like, 50, you know, like, list of, like, my favorite metal songs, like, the first two Pantera albums are, like, you know, they're, like, all of them are on there. Like, they're all...
First three.
They're amazing. First three. I love all that. And, however, like, Reinventing the Steel for me sounded a lot like Phoning It In. And it did to me. But it's not bad. Like, it's still Pantera. Point. Like, it's still amazing. And DamagePlan, to me, like, really, like, it hit like that at first for me. At first, I was like, this is just like it's sludgy. It's I don't want to say it's like too heavy, because I like heaviness too. But to me, it seemed lazy to me. But then I listened to it again in this new adventure for me. And you know what? I think I was too harsh on it, honestly. And I think I'm glad I went back and listened to it. And I liked it more than I thought I would. This whole album, I really did. And like, I really think back in the day, in, you know, like 2000 whatever 6 or whenever this 4 2004 when this album came out.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was actually too hard on it. I was too hard on it, and I think if I would have given it more of a listen to, I think I would have liked it more at the time. Honestly.
So here's something I got for you.
Please.
This actually is kind of proving the fact that why we're doing these type of reviews is because shit can get overlooked very, very easily. DamagePlan, I will say, and going back to reinventing the steel, I will grant you, it did almost seem like a phone in and in. But here's the difference between DamagePlan and that album of Pantera, is that Phil still made reinventing the steel what it was. Now,
I do agree with that. I agree with you there. I will take the nicely recorded Phil any day over the DamagePlan singer. Yes.
Right. And but the other point to this is, I'll just throw my quick opinion of the DamagePlan album. Though I enjoyed it a lot, and I understand what you're saying with the slow metal, slow heavy metal. Absolutely, I understand it. I do not agree with you whatsoever on like bands ruining it. But like the difference between what you're speaking of is the fact of like where you can go to all the other previous Pantera albums, every song up to Great Southern Trendkill was a fucking banger. Every song.
Every song.
Reinventing the Steel, I think it was like 95% of the album, maybe even 90. And I feel the exact same way that I do about that album as I do DamagePlan as a whole. Do I hate it? Absolutely not. But it's not every single song, and I think that's the core of the problem. Is like, as we've progressed in music in general, where we were growing up, we could probably name 25 bands that like every single song was spectacular.
Yeah, there was.
We can't do that with DamagePlan.
No. Now, had that tragedy not occurred, like maybe things could have, like they could have progressed. Like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I think it may have been a one and done, and I really think Hell Yeah would have been a little bit better with Dimebag.
Yeah. So let me. I'll talk to like just a couple more things, and we'll switch it over. Nobody ever talks about bass players in bands, especially like this like sort of metal. Like no one does.
No.
So, so I just want to I want to talk just a hair about bass playing. This is another thing that I dislike about DamagePlan, and this is. I'll take all the shit in the world for this. Like I've been around music and recording a long time, and like the meme of like we just take the bass and turn it down in like thrash metal, like that meme. There is truth to that meme. All right.
Yeah.
And if the bass is too loud and too kind of flubby, so this is another like like we can do a whole episode on my critique of bass playing that where I will get crucified. I get it. And that is like the pick bass problem. So like in metal, there are lots of bands that have bass players that are really super talented, super complicated, and they do like really good finger style stuff, and they're slapping and popping and stuff like that. And it sounds like fucking hot garbage because it's all over the place. It's too much. It's too distracting. It's too loud, and it does not complement the guitar in the slightest. The beauty of like Rex Brown and Pantera way back in the day and like the earlier stuff is that the bass was not cranked up, it wasn't overpowering, and it blended perfectly with the guitars. And on DamagePlan, the tone is different, the bass is louder. I'm not saying he's a bad bass player, Bob Zilla, he's a fine bass player, but it's really loud and it's jarring to me, and I think it doesn't complement Dimebag's playing as well as the actual Pantera stuff, up through Reinventing the Steel. So this is like a Rex Brown versus Bob Zilla kind of thing. Yep. And I think Rex Brown complements Dimebag better. Now, granted, I'm a fucking boomer, and like I grew up with Pantera, so I like what I like. I like what I liked when I was young, right? But I really think that did DamagePlan a disservice cranking the bass up like they did. It sounds awkward to me. Like I don't like the tone as much on that album as I do any of the Pantera albums, including Reinventing the Steel. I think the Pantera tone is so perfect to me that and this what like they strayed away from it in DamagePlan. It just does not sound as good sonically to me.
Now I will tell you, people will probably say, well, it wasn't supposed to be Pantera.
Yes, I agree. I know.
At that year, 2004.
2004,
2004, yeah. Well, however you want to say it.
Yep.
Metal was starting to change and toward that new metal genre of things. And I think Dimebag and Vinny were trying to go that route.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to go so far, maybe not so far, because you can't go that far away from what Pantera is and what they were in Pantera. But I do feel like they were trying to kind of get with the times.
Yeah. It's got a lot of new metal influence, and like part of the new metal thing is like you crank up that bass guitar. Like it's almost like cranked up in protest from like the And Justice for All shit. You know, like everybody knows what happened on that album by now. How they like totally abused Jason and fucking turned him down.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like I still like the tone of that album. Like I hate that I like it, but I do. It's iconic to me. And it's, you know, is it better? Like I've heard the And Justice for Jason stuff. Like it sounds great, but it's just like it's different because I loved And Justice for All so much, and it sounds so weird compared to all the other metal out there because it like literally has like no bass guitar in it. So
it has, you can't hear nothing.
You can't hear any bass. You got to really you can hear a tiny bit, but it's nothing.
The biggest part of us doing these reviews and actually trying to get you to listen to different things. Like, I can't believe you call yourself a Dimebag fan, but never really
it's embarrassing. I apologize.
I think the point of all this is to kind of like not sway you into my way of music, but like open your horizons.
Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of wizard metal doesn't fucking sound like they have a lot of bass. I'm just throwing that out there.
Very true.
Well, and that's fine. True. You know, because it's soulless and it's like not heavy. It's speed. Nope. And like when you have speed, you have like fast guitar playing, and you probably have like the fast low end volume bass players. But like this is, I mean, that was the whole. There was a whole big purpose of me being like, you got to listen to DamagePlan.
Yeah, this was a great experience. Yep.
Freaking Dimebag. But two, it was like, okay, so it's not Pantera. Nope. I do think Pat did a decent job. It's the problem that I've seen past like I don't know, we'll say Mechanized album, where metal has taken the toll of like not every song is fantastic or not every song is great like it used to be. Yeah. That's my biggest problem, and that's my problem with DamagePlan. I love what DamagePlan was about because like I'm a Dimebag fan. I'm a Vinny fan. Like, did I want to hear more Phil? Absolutely, because that's my dude.
Oh yeah.
He'll punch you in the face, and he'll make you feel any kind of way. Yep. Whether it's anger, whether it's love, whether it's joy, whether it's just pure rage. Phil had that capability. Pat did not. What Pat did was just make it almost studio-esque metal.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it.
And that's not a horrible thing. It just wasn't great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, totally agree with you on that. It was just like, it's pretty good. It's like, it's fine to me.
Right.
You know?
And my point is, I don't necessarily think, and this is why just my heart of hearts, I believe this. I don't think that DamagePlan would have actually stuck around, because when you listen to Pat and Dimebag and Vinny, and even Bob, they didn't mesh. But you said earlier that Rebel Meets Rebel was great.
Yeah, I loved it.
I absolutely agree with you. I think Rebel Meets Rebel meshed, and they melded together so well.
Yeah.
Not every song was great, but it made you enjoy what you were listening to.
Yep.
And I think that's the difference.
I 100% agree. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to add? There's a bonus song worth checking out. I'm a huge Jerry Cantrell, Alice in Chains fan. That bonus track on there, it's called I have it on my notes. Ashes to Ashes. I thought it was a great song. It was like really heavy Alice in Chains. It's worth checking out. I mean, it's like an oddball. You know, it's not. It's Jerry Cantrell singing, and I thought he did great on it. Yeah, worth checking out. In addition,
and you know, I'm a huge Jerry Cantrell fan too, and so is Phil. Like Alice in Chains and Pantera have had a history together.
Yeah, they were all
because
homies. Yep.
We know that Phil did Wood with Alice in Chains. No, I mean obviously Lane wasn't around, but he came up and sang the song with Jerry, and oh my God, this was after the whole Pantera debacle, and he killed it. So yeah. I'm absolutely with you on that, Jerry Cantrell.
Jerry, man, I love Jerry.
Can't go wrong. So yeah, check it out. All in all, DamagePlan was good. Were they great? No.
The shoes were too big to fill, and it was like we were expecting there's no way they could have been good. Like everyone was expecting Pantera and didn't get that. Like we were all disappointed. I think. I mean, I was anyway. So that's kind of.
So here's how I gauge this. Would you put it on your playlist?
No.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's too much better stuff. Yeah.
Every once in a blue moon, I'll go on my phone and do a little search for DamagePlan, and I'll listen to them.
Yep.
Because it is still Dimebag, but no, they're not on my playlist either.
Yep. And I definitely will say that this time, like as an old man now, going back and listening to them now with like my old man fret ears or whatever, like. It was way better than I thought it was going to be honest. Like, I was expecting it to be terrible. I thought it was terrible back then because I was an asshole kid. You know, I was 24 when it came out, whatever. But, yeah, like, listening again, I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was, actually. So, there's my take on it. Better than I remember, for sure.
Yeah, and the fact that it took you 20 years to go back and actually listen to a Dimebag album,
embarrassing,
kind of sad. Yeah,
sad and embarrassing. Sad and embarrassing.
Obviously, I want to throw in, like, just because people didn't like DamagePlan, fucking gave no reason to that piece of shit to go on stage and shoot Dimebag. That's fucking stupid, and what a piece of shit.
Total piece of shit.
So that's our DamagePlan review, Mike.
Yep.
I think you laid it out a lot. Yeah, we talk a lot about Pantera, but like the points came across, and I really understood it. So thank you for that.
Usually I'm spouting some gibberish and nonsense. So hopefully this one I tried to make some good points, and you know it's still Vinny and Dime. Like, go check it out for sure. Please do that.
Absolutely. Yep. If you never did, you're doing yourself an injustice.
Yeah, go listen. It's worth listening.
So our next band for review in this week is a band I mentioned a couple times, but it's Spiritbox. And I know I'm going to have a quick review. Mike will not.
I can beat something to death, yes.
I want to throw in Spiritbox is a band I've just recently discovered a few months ago. And the first song was, what was it? Circle
with Me?
Circle with Me was the first song I explored. Yep. And wow, I was taken back. I will say Courtney, the lead singer, don't know her last name. Probably should research that. It's okay. It's for the gist of it.
Courtney
The
LaPlante.
chick?
LaPlante. Canadian.
She
They're a
sounds
Canadian
like-
band.
Oh, yeah, they're all Canadian. Most of the metal nowadays seems to
There's
be
a lot of
that.
shit that comes out of Canada. Yep. True.
But she has a voice of an angel, in my opinion. I think she, like her actual vocals, very, very clean, very, very strong.
Yep.
Her screams, super clean, and aggressive enough to be heavy. Not so aggressive to where it's annoying. Now with that, I'll pass it on to you real quick just to get that little take.
Okay, so I have two points that I wanted to make about this band. So I went and listened to a bunch per Jason's recommendation. I think this band, they're a very solid band, very talented. I think that girl has got a great voice. She sounds great. Their recording is quality is really good. It actually got a lot better. There was like I kind of think of them in two eras, I guess. There was like what I think of as like maybe their first one or two albums versus like their last album or something like that. I noticed like a distinct shift in like the quality. Like I think went up a pretty good amount. I listened to maybe 5 or 6 songs, maybe more than that, maybe 7 or 8 songs. I tried to like space them out and just pick like the hits from each kind of era. So I have 2 points to make. Is this the time? Should I make my Or should I talk about them now, Jason? Is it a good time to talk? I have one I want to talk about the vocals, and two I wanted to talk about. Okay, I'll talk about the vocals. So the first thing that you sent to me was a recording of "Circle with Me." It was they called it like the one take recording. It was something like that, where it shows Courtney in the studio with the microphone in front of her, recording it. And she's very, very talented. She's very, very good. I have a criticism, and this criticism, I even have like a word for it, but or a phrase for it, and I called it the pretty singer problem. Now I need to explain this, and Jason, please do not kill me on this. Here's my explanation for it. Okay, so Jason, I know you personally have never taken vocal lessons, right? Like from like a vocal, like an actual like trained instructor teaching you how to sing. And
you're right. You're right.
So half of singing is actually breathing, and breathing properly, and being able to have like supporting breaths with enough air to support what you are doing. Now, here is the problem with that. You have to breathe by sticking your belly way the fuck forward. All right, so you can get tons of air into your lungs, and then you can have supporting breaths to sing. All right, and it looks funny. All right, I'm just gonna say it. It looks funny. All right.
Okay.
If you are, so I know we got a camera here. Like I'm in decent enough shape, but like I can like force my belly forward here. All right, and that's what it like literally looks like if you are singing with the supporting breaths. Your lungs are like are opened down like that. All right, and I'm gonna see. It's hard to do that here without like looking like a moron here. All right, but you'll notice it in like opera singers, for example. Most of them are like big fat Italian guys, right? But they're not just big fat guys. They're sticking their bellies far forwards. Operatic sopranos do that, like girls sopranos do that. You'll see it. They stick their bellies forward when they sing. And oftentimes, like some of them, to hit notes, they'll like literally stick their hands on their bellies and pull backwards to get more force out. All right? Lots of singing is breath control like that. Is breath control. Mm-hmm. And if you are not breathing right, I can hear it all the time. All right? I notice this all the time. And here are 2 things I listen for. And that's one is you can hear the breathing all the time, and also like there's techniques for taking breaths in. Like one of the first things I learned in like the vocal lessons that I've taken is how to take a breath very, very super quickly. And one of the ways to do that is to like pretend like you're yawning, all right, and then just suck in, all right. It fills your lungs like immediately, like that, all right. that's a thing you can do if you are trained to do that. Now, so many singers out there do not have adequate supporting breath, so they come across as flat all the time. They don't quite hit the notes. This girl doesn't sing right. However, she doesn't miss the notes. All right, and I'll give you, and I'm happy to give you an example for this. All right,
okay.
I found actual tons of examples of this. Now there are two things at play. One is stylistic choices, because the breathing that she does, I know, has stylistic things behind it. She's right up on her microphone. She breathes in. It's like an expressive thing that she does on purpose. I know that. I know she's doing lots of that on purpose. It's a choice, right? And that's which. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just a decision she's doing to give that passionate, I'm expressing emotion by doing that breathing like that. She absolutely does that. Emotion. Right? She does that. She's doing it on purpose, and I don't that's just purely a stylistic choice, which she's doing. I think she's doing it on purpose, and to give you the experience of her being passionate. It's absolutely, and and she should do that. It sounds great. It sounds absolutely great. However, there are times in some of these recordings where she is straight up out of breath, and she sucks breath in halfway in the middle of a verse. And I think she's doing it because she's literally out of breath, and not because she's doing it on purpose. I caught a couple times during that where I literally heard that, and there were a couple times where she was pitchy. That's it. I think she's great though. I don't. This is purely a criticism that I give all the time. So many singers do this, and this girl's good, and she's got a bright future. Obviously, she's a great singer. She's cute as a button, and but I can tell she's not doing that she's not doing that breath thing, which I think would benefit in a few ways. Well, now there's so many stylistic choices though that are in this kind of singing. You want that emotion to come across. And if you are singing with too much supporting breath, it can sound sterile. She doesn't want it to sound sterile. She wants it to sound passionate, she's being chased by someone practically, and she's out of breath, and she's giving it her last, she's giving all of her emotions into it, she's tired, and she's giving you, this is all I got left, and it's for you, and I love you. That comes across. And that's what she's doing, and it's on purpose. And I respect. Do that. It sounds great. I'm not saying she sounds bad. I'm not saying this is anything more than a nitpick, because that's all it is. It's a fucking nitpick. When I said she doesn't know how to sing, she probably does know how to sing. She's choosing not to do it.
She sings fantastic.
Yep.
I get what you're saying,
yep.
But we're going back to the whole nitpick thing where. Yep.
This is a pure Mike asshole nitpick here. This is asshole.
Right. We're going to fan of music and understanding of music to slight music to complete asshole
yes. Total asshole. Yep. 100% asshole.
Of hey, I did this. This is how people are supposed to do it. But you know what? This is how, not this particular band, but people do this different styles to, and goes back to why you are such an elitist. When people do this, it is to incumbent an emotion, the whole I'm doing this for you, or I'm
stylistic style choice, which is it's a part of it, 100% a part of it. I do not disparage that. Do that. It's great.
Yeah. Because that's what drew me to this band.
You can hear that emotion come across in her voice. You can absolutely hear that. Yep.
And I listened. I've listened to about 12, 15 songs from them.
Yep.
And I could sit there and say, it's the progression of music. Not every song is going to be a banger, but the newer shit that we are discussing, man. It is good. It is good, good enough to listen and enjoy. And I would absolutely say go see them live. I would absolutely say check them out, because they, just her feelings in her vocals is enough for me to be like, wow.
Really good at conveying emotion. Like absolutely, and it comes across like completely. And part of the reason for that is her choice to take the breaths as she does. Like it comes across very emotional that way. Like it does. It's stylistically.
It goes back to that clean. Like she's not overly breathy. I love Maria Brink, but Maria Brink is kind of breathy. She's not overly breathy. She doesn't use a lot of reverb. You could hear some of it, but it's not heavy reverb.
So often they will drown vocalists in reverb. Yeah.
Right. And so like just herself, I'm like, bam, okay, you sold me. Now the music.
Yep.
The music is heavy. You have a little bit of electronic with it because, like, we got to do a little bit of mix up every once, I guess. Like
they like it.
Music has progressed, and
I like some of that shit too. Fill it out a little bit. It can add to it. Yeah.
The downfall to Spiritbox is the music doesn't move me. It doesn't wow me. And we were just talking about DamagePlan. DamagePlan definitely doesn't wow me, but Pantera or Fear Factory or even Cannibal Corpse or like certain, like, there's music out there that will just straight wow you. The Gathering album from Testament, that whole music background, you could take the vocals completely out of it. That whole album wowed me.
Yep.
Spiritbox just doesn't do it in that aspect. It is good and heavy, but it takes that element out. So what do you think of their music?
So there's this thing that happened way back in the 90s, and this is almost like Pantera's fault too. But when I say Pantera's fault, what I really mean is like a bunch of people like misunderstood the Pantera and got lazy and made their own crap because they could get away with it. like a bunch of bands like did that, and like that's where kind of nu metal came from. But there's this other genre that came out. I kind of call this the Nightwish problem, but I don't mean it like 100%. But so what Jason and I grew up on is like riff-based metal, good guitar riffs. All right, like we like Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Slayer. Like all of these bands, the riffs were so good. Like they're amazing. Like guitar riffs are what we grew up on, and
to blow you away.
Yeah, like they're like technical, intricate, like 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 Master of Puppets, right? Like the riffs at the beginning of that, like they're fantastic riffs
in your face,
riff-tastic riffs. All right,
yeah.
What a lot of these bands, and this is so prevalent in bands that have like girl singers. Like they all seem to have this. Like if your band has a keyboard player and a girl singer, for some reason, you will not. No, all right. I know what the reason is, and I can give you a musical reason for it. But what you will never find in these kind of bands, very rarely, is good guitar riffs. And this band, I think, is kind of burdened by that too. And here's part of why, I think. All right, with a lot of these bands. Okay, so you have girl vocalist, all right? That's usually that's probably why we're listening, because it's kind of rare to have a girl vocalist in metal. If you got to like really be into it. Like it's kind of a genre in and of itself, like metal with the girl vocalist,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of why we're here, like either you dig girl vocalists or you don't. If you don't like them, you don't listen to any of this stuff. You got to like it. All right, and it's kind of why we're here. All right, so you got a keyboard player like this band. I don't know if they have a keyboard player, but I think they have. They play with some backing tracks and stuff to fill it out, some electronic stuff. So that, it's busy. They got a lot of stuff going on, And the problem when you have the girl vocalist, girls like oftentimes will sing with harmony. Like they put more oftentimes. Look, we're. Not every time. Stop it. If you're gonna crucify me in the comments section, leave the comment and interact with me, please.
Yeah.
You can yell at me all day. I don't mind. I do not mind if you yell at me. for this stuff. You can tell me I'm full of shit, nonsense person. But what happens in these kind of bands, and I think Nightwish has this problem. I think they have a great guitar player, Nightwish does. But the problem is the music is so busy that there's just not a lot of room for like riffy guitars. And so many of these bands, they like all of the guitars, they're percussive and they play like tones a lot. You know, they're playing chords and tones, but the riffs are always like very simple. I think I also I wanted to bring this up as part of new metal. If we eventually like do a new metal issue, which is kind of like kind of like what this is turning into for me anyway, is the drop is I call this the drop D problem. The drop D problem like killed so many bands back in the day. There are a few bands that can play in drop D that actually like will write cool kind of guitar riffs, but there's so much lazy guitar writing in bands that play in drop D because and if you know, you know. I'll go over this later. Jason, if you're unaware of how the drop D problem, but
no, there's no drop D problem in my opinion. Drop D is what helped.
No. This isn't what you think. This isn't tuning down to D. Drop D is different than that. It's a different thing.
Okay. All right.
When you have all this like drop D shit out there, it causes these guitar riffs to be written like super lazy, and it's like the dun 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 dun, which is the Nightwish lazy guitar riff problem, where like half their songs all have these like kind of slow, kind of super unremarkable, boring guitar riffs, and I think this band has a lot of that going on for it. I think so,
because actually you mentioned something that I was gonna bring into because something that for me, and I think a lot of people can actually understand this. With I guess you call it the new metal. I fucking hate that term.
I know it's dumb.
But with how metal has progressed.
Yep.
And we're still focusing on Spiritbox here because one of the things that they do really, really well on the majority of the songs, so 90% of the songs, it's that slow build, that Pantera effect you were talking about, and it's almost like storytelling at its finest. And what I mean by that is like I'm a wrestling fan. It's documented on our channel.
Yes.
Wrestlers tell stories the majority of the time in the ring. They slow you get punches, you get a headlock. It's a slow build before the big move comes, before a big old
crescendo.
Yeah. And so the way the music has seemingly progressed is that slow build. And Spiritbox has done a really good job at it. Going back to that Nightwish thing, I feel like Nightwish, the music isn't as important anymore if you can work up to that pop.
Mm-hmm. So here's maybe a thing that I would like to add to this that is related. All right, I think there's another thing that has happened, and this this just kind of like is like a thing I had been thinking for a while I think now I can articulate it based on this conversation. What I had mentioned before about bands that sacrificed everything for the sake of like heaviness, they sacrificed like all kinds of things just to get like a more brutal and heavier thing going on. I think that is like a characteristic of lots of things, especially like that was like a lot of the goal with new metal. The bad new metal did not pull it off. The good new metal did. There's good new metal out there, believe me. Like that, like I'm just shitting on the bad stuff. There's tons of good stuff that happen. Like technically, like Fear Factory's kind of new metal anyway. Like they got
shut up,
right? Like there's so like the term is stupid. Right? I think the term is stupid. Right?
It's completely stupid.
Well, because like Mudvayne, Slipknot, like other bands that I enjoyed from like that get called new metal all the time, and but they don't exhibit all of the problems that I have brought out. But there's so many bands that did. But that aside, all right. What another thing that can happen is you can sacrifice intricacy of music composition for the sake of emotion. I think you can do that. And so if you're painting a picture and you're like taking someone on a journey, like the technicality of like and the musicianship of the writing isn't quite as important as the emotions that are conveyed. All right? And this is the other direction of like what I so like the anti-wizard metal thing. So wizard metal, as Jason and I talk about all the time, has lots and lots of musical intricacy and speed and technicality and like showing off your chops and all that kind of stuff in it at the expense of like emotion in a lot of cases.
Emotion.
All right,
you could pretty much just say that.
So in the other direction, you can sacrifice lots of, you know, technical proficiency and like intricate writing and stuff like that to, you know, because you're more focused on your emotion, the emotion you're trying to convey. And maybe something like that is taking place.
That is absolutely probably the best way to describe our differences.
Yeah. Like anti-wizard metal.
I never thought of it that way. Like, because it is like, I mean, the previous episodes, I've admitted there's a few wizard metal bands that I've listened to that I didn't hate. They are emotionless, but it's the intricacy of the music. Their storytelling, some of it is like decent. And because that's another thing for me. I don't need to know that a dwarf, and I'm just using this as an example, a dwarf is going to like climb a mountain to mine some rock. I don't need to know that type of story. I play D&D or Dark Kingdoms or Chaos to do that stuff. I don't need my music to tell me that. Yeah. But when you actually have a decent lyrical speed metal band, which there have been a few, I can get with. And I guess this is why I lean more towards, I'm a very, sensitive man. In this, I'm a redhead, so like I have to be. Like I guess it's in my genes. But like when you can elicit an emotion out of me, that's when you hook me. Yeah. Whether it's storytelling, whether it's like, because like I'll be honest, like there's slight undertones of religious like lyrics in Spiritbox. Some of it also is paganism. Like I've heard a bunch of different stuff where I'm like, okay, I could get with all of their stuff that they're talking about. It's not like, I'm sad. It's not that I'm happy. It's all just pretty neutral, kind of neutral lyrics that I'm like, I could get behind. And I think that's where I'm like, okay, all right, this is enough emotion to like suck me in, and the vocals are so good and so pure and clean that I'm like, everything else doesn't matter.
Yep. And there's also like things to consider. Like she's really good at expressing like just pure emotion. Like like lyrical content aside, she conveys that she is like invested in this. And one of the things that like she's not phoning it in. She's not like casually there. Like that's the thing that comes across in her stylistic choices is that she's emotionally invested in what she's singing, whatever it is. And I think that's to her credit. She is a great singer. Like I'm not saying she's a bad singer. Like when I said like she doesn't know how to sing, like I did not mean that. Like I take it back. I'm saying is like these stylistic choices, right? Like are real, and well she is a singer. Like she's more of a singer than I am. Yeah. Like I'm not a pro singer. Right. Like she's a professional singer, and probably knows all kinds of ways to sing and chooses to sing like certain ways. And a lot of those choices are like they're at the this is a way to explain my thoughts on things. Like I'm never saying anybody's like bad at this, but like one of the ways that like the emotions come across, like the frantic, so especially in singing, the expressiveness of singing, the more expressive you are, it's at the expense of like the pure technique. All right, pure technique without any sort of like expressiveness, emotional context, like that stuff like fucks around with like the pure tone of singing. And I don't mean in a bad way, I mean in a good way. Like it does. Like that level of express. Like if we all learned how to sing exactly the same, we'd all sing like robots. We'd all be perfectly pitched, you know. But it's the things that like. I know you guys don't play around with like AI like sliders when you're like generating voices. Like there's like if you ever use like 11 Labs, there's like a I can't remember exactly what this slider is called, but it's like you can turn up the expressiveness of the voice. But if you turn it too far, it sounds crazy. And if you turn it down far enough or to the other direction, they sound like a robot. So it's like the perfect combination is like the expressiveness, which takes away from the pure technique of the singing, versus pure technique of the singing, which takes away from the expressiveness. And Jason loves the expressiveness. That girl's expressive when she sings. She's like, you know, you can tell she's there, like she's invest like, all right, picture her on the phone talking to like her boyfriend or something like that, like screaming and crying at him, and like that's what I mean when I say like expressiveness, like having emotion come out through the voice, you know, something like that, versus someone who is singing on like perfect pitch, doesn't move, is just like is perfectly like the belly sticking way out, you know, like that kind of thing. Like for example, a non-expressive opera singer that is just standing there sings like perfectly, like the vocal acrobatics are through the roof. It's like perfect, but there's no expressiveness. There's no conveying of the emotion, and conveying of emotion, like it fucks up the pitch a little bit, but who gives a shit? Because like the emotion is what matters more in this context, you know. And I'm not like, again, I'm never saying it's like bad or anything like that, but it does it like it. Like you kind of you trade off one for the other in a lot of cases, and the ones that are like the best vocalists ever combine them together very well, you know, because you can if you're too emotional when you're singing, you're just gonna cry on stage and it's not gonna sound good at all. It's gonna sound terrible. But if you can, you know, if you still are musically coherent, but you are expressing your, like, you know, if you're crying while you're musically coherent, like, yes, like we love, like people love that because they're like drawn to that, you know.
I think this is a great experience. Experiment, I should say, to what we're gonna do for the next couple weeks. I think. So all in all, real quick before I go into that.
Yes.
Spiritbox.
Yes.
In my playlist.
Is that Spiritbox in your playlist?
Yeah, I think that they're absolutely worth the listen. I think they're absolutely worth having in your playlist. They are a vibe. They for the newer, and I say newer, like, you know, 2020s, like I haven't really liked anything for a long time that has been decent. This is definitely something that I could be like, I can get behind. How about you?
Spiritbox, I think with Spiritbox, I think a couple of their songs could be in my playlist, but I don't think the band as a whole is like really my style. I don't think they're particularly for me. Yep.
And that's completely perfect, because this is what this is all about. Going back to the point of our our trial run, or not even trial, but like things you said just made it really hit. Okay, we're going to do some more breakdowns, some more reviews. And I'm, you know, this time around on our next episode, I do have a band already in mind I want you to break down. It's an older band. But after that, because I'm not going to forget this episode, because there's a slight couple issues where I'm like, all right, Mike, you're a fucking elite asshole.
Well, that's typical. That's the magic I bring, buddy.
Let's bring down a couple other bands that are female singers that are technical as well. And I have those bands for you when the time comes. I really want to do that because I think our audience will also have opinions of bands that could be out there for you to listen to try to break your eliteness. Because like the breathing, I understand, like that's what you were taught. I don't necessarily, I mean, I guess you go in wizard metal and you can say the vocalists there are doing that. Opera singers, they have emotion too, like they do. Yeah. So like I think this first half of the year, maybe, we're going to try to like break you down a little bit to not be such an elitist when it comes to technicalities of like breathing and stuff. We're going to try to take you out of your element to explore different styles. And I want you to do the same for me. I am a anti-wizard metal guy. It's very well documented. If you got some older stuff, some newer stuff, even if it's death metal, whatever kind of music we come up with, I want to break down in all facets, even if it is a little bit elitist. I don't care. like the next episode, I'm gonna have you listen to the Siamese album from Smashing Pumpkins. That's like 1994.
No, that might even be before then. Oh man, that's old. That one. But,
it's old.
But I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to do it. Like Smashing Pumpkins to me, I was giant gatekeeping asshole metal guy. Like we'd make fun of Smashing Pumpkins, any stuff like that. So this is gonna be like totally out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna go through that. I'm gonna give it a shot, man. I'm gonna go through it. So when we were talking earlier about suggestions, my first thought, I thought that what I would do is I would pick something that was kind of heavy. I want to recommend to you the album The Sound of Perseverance by Death, and the reason that album I think is really polarizing. Not a lot of people would say that's like their favorite Death era or album, the Richard Christie stuff. Whereas I do. I think that is like Death's like penultimate album. I think it's amazing from start to finish. And I do love like the Gene era and the what do you call it? The Sean Reinert stuff as well. Like it's not, promise you, I'm not saying anything about Death is bad. Please do not get it misconstrued. But I want Jason to listen to The Sound of Perseverance from start to finish. And I want to talk about that album a bit and explain like why I like it a whole lot. And it's more than just like it's heavy, it's fucking awesome, it's Chuck and it's Richard Christie and fuck yeah. And you know, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper than that. That is actually how I feel. But to dig a little deeper with that. And Jason, I think you will enjoy that album. It's still Death. It's awesome. Give it a listen. Tell me what you think, and if you can compare it to like some of your other things that you like about Death, or even other bands, and we'll pick it up next time and do another review. That's the one I would recommend for you.
That sounds great. I will do that. And that's our show, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep. Like and subscribe. Is it
podcasting as well?
Yep. We love you. Thank you.
And we, for everything, support. You know, we're working on Patreon stuff, maybe. But if you have a band, if you have like a band and an album, that's what we need. We need either like a handful of songs from said band, or we just need an album. Yeah, if you guys think that there's something out there,
if you like a band, write it in the comments. Interact with us. Tell us why you like it. That would be cool too. Yeah. And on that note, we are out of here.
Jason is a badass motherfucker. He picks up garbage left by assholes all day, all the while listening to the most brutal metal out there. He hates wizard metal and has a soft spot for trash like Nirvana and other crap from the 90s, but we'll forgive him because he's just so damned awesome. Mike, on the other hand, is a bastion of impeccable musical refinement. He's been playing guitar and running a studio for nearly 30 years. He's an engineer by trade and can write some of the worst code you've ever seen. He loves wizard metal and often turns his nose up whenever he hears stuff that Jason would call soulful or emotional. If Jason is Maverick, Mike is Iceman. Between the two of them is a veritable mountain of musical knowledge and taste. These old friends will entertain as well as enlighten, all the while paying tribute to the best that the world of metal has to offer. Welcome to the Two Shots Metal Podcast.